What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Dark Story Time. Today, I am just pulling the creepiest stories I could find from TikTok. Now, I know we do a lot of TikTok compilations, but it's because it's more forgiving on my channel. Whereas I would love to do a YouTube compilation, but I have using other people's content policies to try to get around. So I think what I'll do is, in the near future, I'll do a creepiest videos from YouTube video, and we'll see if it works out, if I'm able to upload it and it not get flagged. So we're gonna jump right into it. Really quick before I get started, just so you guys know, I am reacting to these for the first time. I've never seen half of these, so if some of them suck, I do apologize. I'm seeing them just like you are for the first time, and my reactions are genuine. But also, I would like for you guys to go check out a couple YouTubers that I fill a lot of my story time with. I think you'll really appreciate it. Lighthouse Horror. You got Creeps McPasta. You got Dr. Creepin'. And of course, Chillin' Tales from Dark Knight. They're always my go-to when I need to make a playlist and I'm just in the mood for the creepiest shit I can find. So, just no one's asking me to give those shout-outs. I'm just giving you guys some of my top favorites on my playlist if you appreciate creepy stories on a rainy or sunny day. So, sorry for talking so much. Let's jump right into it. Our first video comes from Ibrahim _KA. And this is from TikTok. Let's do it.
This is the longest true horrifying story episode. This episode is worth the time. The story took place in Nador, Morocco in the year 2015. The story was submitted by Ilyas. Back in 2015, Ilyas was an 18-year-old Moroccan Muslim that lived in Norway. One night, Ilyas was back in Morocco visiting family, and he stayed up late watching a movie at home till 3 in the morning. The living room was very warm, so he got up to open the window for fresh air. As he was at the window, being at the 4th floor in that building, he looks down, and the street was dark and empty, but there was one man wearing black from head to toe with a hood covering his face. He wasn't sure why that man was outside at that time. He looked away, but then peeked one last time out of curiosity. When he looked at him again, the man had his hands on a building's wall. He was strangely just feeling the wall, and out of nowhere, the man vanishes through that wall. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief after what he just witnessed. Ilyas swears that there was no door in that spot. It was just physically impossible. He forgets about this after a while and then flies back to Norway. 6 months later, in Norway, Ilyas experiences his first ever sleep paralysis, which in Islam is known as Jathum. He vividly remembers having a conversation with a dark figure, and his mom also witnessed him speak in his sleep. He woke up after the paralysis with swollen feet and rashes all over his body. They rushed to the ER, and none of the doctors could diagnose what caused his body to react that way. He was finally discharged after treatment, but after that day, Ilyas was never the same person. He always acted differently. He was antisocial. He was distant from people. And his mom always told him that he needed ruqya. A few months later, they fly back to Morocco for the next holiday season. He was always against his mother's ruqya idea. However, he decided to fight his thoughts and do it. He had a cousin that was also suffering, and she visited Al-Raqi in Morocco quite regularly. So they went together with both of their moms. When they reached, they sat down and waited for their session. Ilyas could hear the Raqi in the other room, and he felt extremely uneasy and started to sweat. The Quran recitation, the ruqya, the sounds, made him not even want to look at that direction. He was angry. He went outside for a moment to gain back his senses until their turn finally reached. The Raqi called them in and started. Ilyas's cousin immediately started reacting horribly when the Quran started. She was screaming so loud, Ilyas started losing senses throughout his entire body. He was sweating, he was unable to move, and he was shouting from fear. He does pray, and he does read Quran, but he was so confused as to why he was screaming. He felt like he was being tortured. The slightest pinch from the Raqi felt like it was a knife stab. It was very powerful, and this is where he felt a jinn's presence inside of him. The following night was the most horrific night for Ilyas. For a whole week, the man was not able to sleep alone, and he would get mentally abused by these demons haunting him. Weeks go by. Ilyas started getting demonic thoughts of harming his own family. He hated everyone. When he would look at his own sister, her face would seem distorted to him. He knows these beings are playing with his head. His whole life turned upside down. He would regularly think of harming his own family, but luckily, he never did. A few months later, Ilyas was back in Norway and life was back to normal. He was relieved that he was in a good state of mind and that the horror was over. At the time, he worked at a local grocery store. After a Christmas celebration at work, which he did not participate in, it was late at night. He was walking one of his colleagues back home from work. She was a young woman and she was scared to walk alone. After they reached outside her place, she asked him, "Where's that other girl that was with us?" "What girl?" Ilyas asked. "There was no one there. It was just you and I." She swore that there was another woman with black hair, pale skin, standing next to him the whole time, staring at Ilyas's colleague with anger. Even though this entity gave Ilyas a break, this jinn was still around, haunting everyone that has intentions towards Ilyas.
Wow, that's crazy. So, oh, that's creepy. So, I'll be honest with you. I've never heard a story of a jinn being a woman. Now, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I mean, shit, it's a jinn. I'm sure they can do whatever they want. But that's crazy. It's such a culture shock. I did not know jinn could be women. Every story I've ever heard, the jinn were men. So, that's pretty cool, man. Well, not for him. Not for Ilyas. But, yeah, ooh, I like that. That's a good way to start. Let's jump into the next one. Alright, so this next one comes from Dr. Joe _MD on TikTok. Let's jump into it.
So I'm an ER doctor and I have a story that is 100% true and still gives me chills to this very day. And although I got permission to tell it, I haven't told many people until now. Many years ago, I was working in the ER and I got a patient who was a drowning victim, a 5-year-old girl who had fallen in the family swimming pool. When paramedics brought her in, they were doing CPR still. She had no pulse, no blood pressure, she wasn't breathing, and no signs of life. We brought her back to the ER room and we attempted to resuscitate her. I placed a breathing tube, and fortunately, after about 10 minutes, we got her pulse and blood pressure back. Family arrived and parents, of course, were extremely distraught. Dad particularly was really taking it hard. He was blaming himself. He was saying, "I should have known better. It's all my fault. I should have known better. It's all my fault." I attempted to reassure him. I was like, "Sir, listen, this is not your fault. Accidents happen all the time. It was a complete accident." And he said, "No, you don't understand. When I was a little kid, I went to stay with my grandparents, and they told me not to go down to the river that was right behind their house. I wandered down there anyways. I got in the river, I got in trouble, and I almost drowned. I started screaming for help. My grandpa ran out of the house, dove in the water, and he saved my life, but he lost his that day." And the dad said, "First I killed my grandpa, now I almost killed my daughter." And I, again, tried to reassure him. I was like, "Sir, it's just an accident. It's not your fault. You know, everything will be okay." And the patient was admitted up to the pediatric ICU. A few days later, I'd gotten word that the little girl had woken up in the pediatric ICU and they had extubated her, taken out the breathing tube. So after my shift, I went up to visit with the family and the little girl. Obviously, the little girl wasn't talking too much because she's still recovering. So I'm talking to the mom and dad. They're extremely thankful. They're very grateful, and obviously they're overwhelmingly ecstatic that she's going to survive this awful ordeal. So then I turn my attention to the little girl, and I'm like, just sparking up natural conversation. Hey, do you remember me? And she's like, no. And I said, do you remember the nurses? Do you remember the paramedics? No. And out of nowhere, she goes, I remember Sam. And I said, who's Sam? She goes, I don't know. And I said, okay, well, what was Sam doing? Thinking, was he, doing chest compression, someone in the ER? I don't know. And she said, he was holding my hand. And I said, what did he look like? She said, he was wearing a hat and a funny jacket. And then I'm like, okay, I didn't know who she was talking about. Then the dad walks over and he's punching on his phone. And he pulls up a picture from Facebook and he points it at her and he goes, was that Sam? And she said, yeah, that's him, that's Sam. And dad turns to mom and he goes, oh my God, that's my grandpa. So his grandpa, who had died 25 years earlier, saving him from drowning, was there holding her hand as we were doing the resuscitation.
Oh.
Literal goosebumps to this very day.
Yo. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I got goosebumps too. Ooh. Yo, that's crazy, man. Yo, them spirits be out there, bruh. Don't think that just because you can't see them, that they not there. Yes, keep that in mind when you sneak into the refrigerator in the middle of the night. Something's watching you. Alright. Let's jump into the next one. I hope it's nighttime when you're watching this too, because all them creaks and bumps you hear, yeah.
True and terrifying story about a woman named Hachishaku-sama, or 8 feet tall. In a rural village in Japan, there was a family with a young boy who lived happily. One summer, the boy visited his grandparents' house. One day, while playing in the yard, he saw a tall, strange woman standing by the fence. She was impossibly tall, nearly 8 feet, and wore a long white dress. Her face was hidden under a wide-brimmed hat. The boy's grandparents looked terrified when he described the woman. They told him that she was Hachishaku-sama, a ghostly figure who preys on children. Once she sets her eyes on a child, she follows them relentlessly, making a deep, eerie sound like po, po, po. The grandparents took the boy inside and performed various protective rituals. They locked all the doors and windows, placed bowls of salt in each corner of the room, and told the boy not to leave his room until morning. That night, he heard the haunting po, po, po sound coming closer and closer, but he stayed hidden. In the morning, the grandparents hurriedly took him to a distant relative's house, hoping to break Hachishaku-sama's curse by getting him far away from the village. For many years, the boy was not allowed to visit his grandparents' village, and his family never spoke of the incident again. The legend of Hachishaku-sama remains a chilling reminder of a ghostly figure that can appear anywhere, always seeking out children to take away forever. True and...
Ooh. Yeah. Let me tell you, if I was a kid, I would definitely get my shit together if I heard that. That story comes from scary.story976, and that is the story of Hachishaku-sama. That's pretty creepy. I don't know. That kind of... I keep it dark when I record. The light you see in my video is from my computer monitor. But when I look over my computer monitor, I have a pitch black room. It's like, yeah, yo, we get it creepy up in here. That kind of creeped me out, my man. Her face. Oof. Alright, let's get into the next one. Alright, y'all, I'm not gonna lie, I checked the comments on this one because when I scrolled to this video, it had a warning label over it. And as far as I can find in the comments, it talks about an exorcism. Just a heads up, near the end of this video, they give you the real recording of what was happening. So if you are watching this in the dark like I am, or if you're in a place where it's extra creepy, just, Do a Hail Mary or something. Let's go.
This is Annalise Mitchell. A real recording from her exorcism will be played at the end, so I'm just giving you a warning right now. Annalise lived in Germany with her parents Anna and Joseph, and they were extremely religious. Anna had extreme religious practices like making her children sleep on the hardwood floor in the winter. It was her belief that others couldn't atone for their own sins, so therefore her children had to suffer on their behalf. Then, in 1968, when Annalise turned 16, she began to have her first incidents. Annalise would wake up in the middle of the night with a heavy pressure on her chest, and she couldn't breathe. She also couldn't move, and this incident would completely terrify her. Anna's parents would take her to the doctor, where she was diagnosed with temporal lobe epilepsy. A few years later, Annalise would get extremely sick with pneumonia and tuberculosis. Because of this, she had to spend weeks isolated in a sanatorium. This was a type of medical facility used before the discovery of antibiotics. When Anna got back from the sanatorium, her parents noticed that her personality had completely changed. Anna began to hear voices that would tell her she was damned to rot in hell. She would see demonic faces everywhere, and she developed an aversion to religious objects. She especially disliked crucifixes and pictures of Jesus, and she would not look at them. During this time, she kept going to the doctor, and they would give her every medication under the sun, which would quiet down the symptoms, but they would never fully go away. This is when people started to think that she was possessed. As things continued to worsen, the family finally got a priest to perform an exorcism, and at this time, her symptoms were terrible. Anna would throw herself onto her knees 400 times a day into a praying position. She would do this until she broke both of her kneecaps and ripped her tendons. She began eating the heads of birds, eating spiders, drinking her urine, and speaking in Latin to curse God. Latin is apparently the native tongue of all demons. Renz would perform a total of 67 exorcisms, each of them lasting from 1 to 4 hours. It was here that he learned that there are 6 demons possessing her. One of these demons claimed to be Lucifer himself. Now, quick warning, I've compiled the most insane clips from the exorcism, and here it is.
Yo, that was creepy. It's really sad too, because you gotta think, if you're somebody who has children, like, that was somebody's baby. You know what I mean? Like, that was somebody's baby. And to watch your child have to go through something like that must be heartbreaking. But yeah, whoa, that was creepy. Y'all might want to say a little prayer tonight. Let's go. Alright, y'all, so this one is a little shorter. This comes from Haunted TikToker. Oh, and really quick, I realized I never gave y'all the name of that last video.
There was a girl.
We'll make it happen right now. Mr. Chef Boy. Mr. Chef Boy actually has a lot of really good content. As you can see, sensitive content warning, so you know it's going to be good. So I checked the comments, and apparently this is proving that their house is haunted. and everyone just keeps saying that their soul left their body. So let's see what happens here.
Hit record.
Make sure it clips. Okay, stand back.
Yo, if they jump scare me, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yep. Play your footage. Stop. Play it live. Play it live.
That boy is shaking so bad. Ooh. Stop. Bruh. I'm done with y'all. The internet is undefeated. Alright, let's hop into the next one. Alright guys, so the last video is going to be from Ibrahim_KA on TikTok. Let's jump right into it.
This is a true horrifying story, part 78. This story took place in Tilburg, Netherlands in the year 2020. Ibrahim, a man that was 23 years old back in 2020. Ibrahim is originally Iraqi, but he was born and raised in Netherlands. One night, Ibrahim got a call from his ex-girlfriend, a Dutch girl that he hasn't seen in over 2 years. She told him she wanted to hang out, and she asked if she could come over, and he said yes. When she arrived, Ibrahim and this girl go to the bedroom and they do the dirty. After they were done, she took her things and she left. This is a crucial point in Islam. When you do the dirty with a girl, even if you've done it the halal way with your wife, there is something you must do afterwards called the ghusl. The ghusl is known as a washing or cleansing procedure. If you did not perform the ghusl after finishing what you did, you are not permitted to pray or even touch the Quran. Your body will be considered najis. And when you are najis, you are more prone to jinn possessions and you will attract jinns to your household. After this girl left, Ibrahim did not shower, he did not clean himself. He went straight to bed. As he was falling asleep, his body went through sleep paralysis. He figured it could have been a normal paralysis cycle, but this one in particular is not normal at all. Ibrahim was fully aware of his surroundings as this was happening. He felt that his mattress was slowly being lifted up in the air, and then he felt something pushing him deep into the mattress. Right then, he knew that this was a Jathum. In intense fear, this was happening for 5 minutes straight. He started to recite Ayatul Kursi, and as he was reciting, he saw a face that he was not able to describe to me. He cannot even draw it down. That face was something sinister. He felt that even the Quran recitation was not helping. This is how crucial your ghusl is in Islam. Moments later, the mattress falls down in its place and Ibrahim was able to move. He was crying heavily as he was running out of his home. He gets in his car and he quickly drives to his mother's house. For days straight, Ibrahim was crying from this trauma. He was not able to eat, he was not able to sleep. And the day he went back to his place, he felt the presence of that sinister being even days after he was gone.
Update. Ibrahim is now 26 and he is happily married. He moved out of
This
his
is a true
old apartment. Hold on, I want to read that. He moved out of his old apartment and he is not in contact with his ex. So basically, guys, take a shower after you do the dirty. Stop being nasty. That's what happens. The jinn come and get you. Alright, guys.